If you like this video, make sure to visit our Vimeo page and follow us to get the latest update.
Okay, so I think we can start. So, welcome again, everybody, to the session. Let me share my screen quickly, and we can, as usual, we can start with the functional session. Then we will move with the practical. Yeah. So yesterday we have completed this session. What that is a module number 3. We have completed as a part of environment setup, but we realized that there are some issues with current system, so we will try to sort out that today. But
It's fixed now.
oh wow, good news. Thanks,
Yeah, it
Karen,
worked out
for
fine.
confirmation. So we will proceed further. So now you both of you on the same page, right? As part of setup. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so now I'm just moving back with the module 2, which is which is I can say, which is a more a basic part when you start a learning from SAP Commerce. So this is the actually topic where you can start how that business data being modeled, how you can design the data within the SAP Commerce. So this topic will help you, and after this you will find that how you can model your data, how you can restructure your data into the database. So let me just move ahead. So today we're gonna learn about the data model. We are also calling this within the hybrid data modeling. So let me just explain about this. What is that data model, and what is the role data model playing within the SAP Commerce suite. So data model, within the SAP Commerce or any software or any application, it's all about data. So based on how you are modeling your data, how you are designing your data, what are the ways to organize your data. So that all about. So in SAP Commerce, Commerce provide us a very easy solution to just how you can model a data. There are separate hierarchy and structure are already been defined, so we have to just understand the template, how we can follow, how we can use that data model to define our data, business data. So first thing I wanted to highlight, so in SAP Commerce we are not directly interacting with the database. You don't need to understand, or you don't need to write any SQL sort of queries or any SQL statement. We are not directly interacting with the database. We are interacting with the SAP Commerce data model. So there is a separate type system where we are interacting through that into the database. Right, so this is the basic about our database model. So let me just move with the agenda. What are the agenda for today's session we're gonna learn? So first agenda is hybrid HSQL table, which is the default database which already embedded with the Commerce suite. Any Commerce version, if you download, you will find that this HSQL data are already embedded within the SAP Commerce suite, and a data model is part of the our commerce, and data modeling is a structure, a way which through we are organizing our data. So we're gonna learn about this data model basics, and then we will talk about more about how that hybrid convention for deployment code, how that your when you restructure or organize your data within the hybrids, then how that data being saved or transformed into the database. So that sort of we will see today how the transformation happen when you deal with the hybrid data model. And at the end, we know that data are saved into the database tables, but that are hidden. So hybrid engine itself will do some interpretation internally, and it will being saved through the data model process. And third agenda is about to create a table. So the how you can create a table in SAP Commerce. So as I said, we are not directly interacting with the database directly. So we just need to understand the data model process within the SAP Commerce. So we will learn about that, how you can create a table, how you can define your data within the SAP Commerce. So SAP, the best, the benefit within SAP Commerce is to SAP Commerce is not dependent with the data, that database server. The system are independent, so flexible. So system, our SAP Commerce is don't care what the database behind the scene you are using. That might you can use Oracle, MySQL, or any database server you can use. So hybrids don't care about that. Hybrids, what hybrids need to do, hybrids need to just make a connection with that tables, but you need to understand those data modeling within the commerce, how you can define your data with the help of modeling mechanism. And next, we will talk about more about how do you manage if data type are different from one database to another database. So what does it mean? So this is basically, let's say you are defining a data as per MySQL server, and that data might not support for Oracle. So that sort of issues we will talk about that. We will talk about that. What is that mean of? And another is, this is the actually items.xml, which we are calling. All the data definitions are stay here within this file, which is called items.xml file. So under this topic we will talk about more. And then we will talk about why object class is a super class for all the classes, what are the benefits, and why we are defining this object class is always as a super class. So right, we will discuss about this. And next we will talk about more what is that dynamic attribute and index creation within the hybrids, how you can define your attribute as a dynamic handler when you are dealing with the data models. So we will talk about more on this. And next we will have that item type and ways to define your item type. So item type is nothing but it's the entity which you are going to define as part of your business. So either product entity, customer entity, cart entity, order entity. So that sort of entity we are calling it as an item type. So we will discuss about that. And there is also a multiple modeling process, how you can store a collection of data within the database. So how you can model with your collection of data in SAP Commerce. So we will discuss about that, how we can reorganize our data if data is collection type. So that, and another one, there is a redeclare also data modeling, modifier, which through how we can redeclare, what does it mean of this redeclare attribute within the items.xml file. So we will learn about this. And last but not the least, so it is about hybrid database internal. What are the internal tables, what are the predefined tables which we are not using, system itself using for on purposes. So we will learn about this some what are the system tables and how we can utilize these tables. So we will we will learn more about this. So let me start with first one. What is that SAP HSQL tables, and what are the data models basic? What are the type system? So let me move to the next slide. Okay, so here is one of the basic that is HSQL, as I said, which this database is embedded with our SAP Commerce Suite. So when you download any SAP Commerce Suite, So this database is embedded with that. So you realize that in your installation you don't need to do any sort of activity related to the database server or any connectivity. Why is it so? Because this database already integrated with your suite. So what you need to do, you have to just take care about your activity and take care about your accelerator and functional work. So you don't need to explicitly define your any external server and make a connectivity with commerce. So this our suite itself take care about that. So there are steps. There is also way you might can extra explicitly download it your SQL server or any HSQL database, and you can start integrating with that. So here is the steps about that. So for this example, so if you have downloaded HSQL explicitly, then you have to just download that connection jar, how you can connect your commerce system with that SSQL database server, and then you can just install this HSQL server, and you need to download this driver file to connect to make the connection between your e-commerce to the database. And then you have to, after downloading this SSQL driver, you have to place it to the dedicated directory. So there is a separate database driver library which is under platform. So you have to place it that SSQL driver into that dedicated lib, so that our hybrids can automatically make that connection with the help of this driver file. And then here is some about how you can deal with the more GUI based your database activity. So as I said, we are not directly interacting. Hybris itself have that process. So but there is a more in a detail if you want. So system is also open to you can directly deal, but SAP not recommend you to directly interact with the database. You have to always interact with your commerce. And you can simply click on SQL client if you are on GUI mode. So you have to type a client ID and their secrets, and you can also, if you want, and then you can see the tables and how that table are being defined into that database. So you can, so system is not restrict you, but SAP recommend you to just deal with the commerce, not with directly to the database activities. And here more next is about our data model. So this one this is the basic concept which you need to understand. So we know that all for every business it's all about data and all about the way how you are organizing your data. So in order to do so, you have to understand that how the data model process is within the SAP Commerce. So here is a very good mapping with some low level diagram. You can just try to understand here. So in hybrid data model, if you are going to develop your data within the SAP Commerce, then how you gonna do that? So you can see here we have a different mapping column. Here is a column for Hybris, and next Java and DB. Here is the DBMS. So let's say example for if you are going to create a one entity, then how this is about your terminology, how you can call that terminology in terms of different system. So if in case of Hybris, at every entity we are calling that as an item type, but in Java, in Java terminology, we are calling that entity as a class, Java classes, right? So but with the same entity, if we can talk about in terms of database, then that entity will we are calling as a table, right? So that sort of mapping which through we can understand the terminology, what terminology we are using for any entity. So in we see that for an entity in database we are always calling a table, and in Java term we are calling it as a Java class. And in the hybrids you have to remember always we are calling it as a item type. And item type, and here is the next attribute. So in hybrid term we are calling it as an attribute, whatever the property of that entity we are calling it attribute within the hybrids. And in Java we have a class member or class member variable, or variable we are calling it within the Java for a class, right? But if we in the database term we are calling it as a column, right? And so we understand that about tables and column, and we understand what is that item type and attribute. So now there we also need to understand the terminology, what terminology we are using for a record. So once you insert that record, what we are calling those records. So in hybrid term we are calling it as an instance, and in Java we are calling it as object, and in database we are calling it as a row, right? And here are also some couple of terminology which you need to remember. Here we have a service layer classes. So these classes actually already defined, you have to just call those is dedicated services based on your requirement. So services are already defined within the suite. And the services in Java term we are calling it as a methods, and in database we have that functions, right? And again in a hybrid term there are more terminology which you can remember. So model classes we are calling in hybrid term, but in Java Java environment we are calling it as a pojo classes, plain old Java object classes. And again in hybrid term there are also a more term which you're gonna use when you start the database modeling. Here we have generic item, right, which is a super classes or super entity to define your database in hybrid system. And in Java you call it as object class, which is also a super class for all the subclasses. And here we have also a extend, which is quite similar in Java, how that inherit perform in Java. So there is a similar concept in hybrids also to extend some parent to child relation. So through this attribute or through this keyword we are inheriting the particular table or entity. And we have also atomic type, we call it as atomic type for predefined data, right? So all, and in Java we are calling it as a primitive. So what are the primitive? Like primitive already been defined within the SAP Commerce, right? Integer or double or string. So that sort of predefined data type we have, we call it as atomic type. And again we have that deployment table, we are calling this is the also a term when you deal with the data modeling, you have to use this data deployment table. So with the help of this deployment keyword we can declare the separate table name, we can define a table for our entity. So we can specify with the help of this tag, we can define our table name. And next one is also a PK. Everybody's aware about that in a database terminology, it's a primary key, but in terms of hybrids, we call it at just PK, which holds a unique key of every record. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. So here, more about data modeling. What is that data modeling is, and how that mapping being done with the in terms of database. So data modeling is a process of creating a database structure and analyzing it for meeting the project requirements. So whenever you define or you start building your application or your e-commerce site, so you have to organize your business data with the help of data modeling. So you have to understand how that data modeling works within the SAP Commerce. And hybrid service layer provides all the services for handling the database handling, right? So all the services are there to handle that life cycle of the data. So so what kind of services hybrids provide us, right? To deal with the life cycle of the data, like either you can update your data, or you can create your new record, or you can delete the record. So all the crude operation being handled from the service layer job. Not you don't need to directly interact with the database. You have to interact within the service layer to call the different services to modify or play with your data. And again, data modeling, in Hybris is a design or a mechanism to create with help of the type system in the Hybris. So this is a type system you have to understand to model your business data within the commerce. So you have to understand that how you can model with. So there are separate we will understand that concept, how you can, at what scenario, what type system you're gonna use. So you have to know that what are the type systems. So in upcoming slide we will see about more. Yeah, so here you can see these are the actually type system. So these are the types which always when you model your data, you have to understand that how what is. So these are the basically types, and with the help of these types, so all the data been being modeled within the SAP Commerce. So we have one atomic type, and then collection type, and enum type, and map type, and relation type, and then item type. So what is that atomic type? So atomic type is a primitive data. So we know that primitive data are already fixed, right? So your data will be either a string or float or double or integer. So that are the sort of data we are calling it in a commerce as a atomic type, and we are that all the primitive type are came under atomic type category. And next one is type of collection type. So all the collection type data, when you require to model your data as a collection type, then you can have to use this collection type to model your data. For example, let's say if you are dealing with the multi-country site, so also to define a multiple languages for your application, so that to define a multiple language, you can use collection type, type system to define multiple languages as a collection. And the next type is enum type. So enum type is just a sort of fixed value and constant value. So with the help of we can define a fixed value, right. So example, like to we can define a gender, or there are week, so that sort of weekdays we can model with the help of whatever the enum data is. We can follow this enum type system to define our enum values. And next type is map type. So if a data or business data is like to organize in a way, like in a way with key and value pair, then we can use this map type data type to define our data in a map type data structure. And then we have another type, it's called relation type. So if we found that a data which makes a relation, then we can use this type system to build the relation between our data. So for example, let's say you have a product data, then product have some category, right? So that to build the relation between product to category, which come under a relation type. And another one is item type, which is also one of the type of type system. And in item type, we are defining our entity. So if you have right to define your customer or to define your addresses, so these are the item type. With the help of this item type, we can define our entity, right? So those are the types. We are also calling it type system. So you have to understand the what are the type system and what at what case what type we can use at the time when we need to model our data into the database. And here we have deployment. So let's say you have organized your data into your with the help of some type system, and then you need to to store those data into the table. So as I said, we are not directly interacting with the table, we are just dealing with the commerce item.xml type system. We are in the type system, we are defining our data. So here is also one of the concept to declare table. So with the help of deployment, right? So in hybrid table deployment in the database is defined actually by the deployment tag. So we have that deployment tag key. With the help of this tag or key, we can define our table name. What table would you prefer? Based on this deployment tag, you can define your table name. And if I add a deployment tag to the item type definition, and then it create a separate table. So if you are defining a dep- uh, so there is, if you are not defining, then that will store into the somewhere super class or super entity. But if you are not defining, if you are declaring the table name, then it will your entity will be stored into that separate table. And if you don't, right, as I said, if you don't add any deployment tag, then it will go to the super entity, which is item type entity or parent table. And hybrid support update existing table and create on table too, right? So so it's up to the data at what case we are designing. So we have that flexibility, either we can update the existing table or we can create a new table. So to define the new table, so here is the syntax which you can use when we are dealing with the modeling, right? To define the table within the commerce, we are using the deployment tag and defining the table name. And here we are defining a type code. So type code should always be a unique code. So you have to make sure before defining a table name. So this type code should always be a unique, so that can't be a redundant. Otherwise, your system will throw a error to create a table. And in next slide, we have another naming convention which you have to follow when you deploy your extension. So we have a separate extension, right? So it's common extension, print extension, or process engine extension, legacy, spring extension, b2c commerce extension. So this is the actually deployment code or type code. We can follow this based on the extension. We can follow this type code to define our type. While declaring the table, we can define this code. And here some concept about how that type system working and how you can define your database table. So here we understand that what is that extension. So in SAP Commerce, all the each extension have their own functionality, right? So you are always deal with the extension in SAP Commerce. But in the same extension in Java term, we are calling it as a project. We learn that. So we always use the extension in SAP Commerce. So you have to understand that these actually as part of data modeling. So where you can model your data at what file, right? So in SAP Commerce, each extension will contain your item.xml file where you can define your data. So what does it mean? That means each extension have that capability, to define that particular business logic or business data for your dedicated extension. So that's why each extension contain that item.xml file you can where you can define your data model. And there then after defining your data model, there is a transformation engine will work, how your data being created into the table, how that data can is stored into the database table. So that sort of engine will start work. And when that transformation will happen, like, so when you define your data in the item.xml, then you have to build your system. And then after you have to initialize your system. Once you initialize or update your system, your existing whatever you have defined the data, that will transformed or create into your database table. So we are not directly interacting with the database, so we are using the SAP Commerce mechanism to define our or to restructure our data into the into the database with the help of Hybris engine. We are not directly interacting with the database anymore. And here's some low level understanding about that, how you can define your data. So I was as part of I was just said about that, how so hybrids have that actually flexibility. Hybrids not restricted with the database server. So our hybrids commerce itself determine that it's not depend with the server. So if you are defining any data that in backend, that doesn't matter your database server is Oracle or SQL or MySQL. So that doesn't matter. So Hybris engine have that flexibility to deal with those backend servers. So you need to just define your data. And if you want to make to define additional property with the specific your database, hybrids have that opportunity to declare your data with the specific server, but it's not restricted. Yeah, Daniel, please go ahead.
Um, I'm a little confused. I thought that we were using a built-in database called Squirrel.
Sorry, come again.
About 3 slides back, you said don't worry about the database because we use a built-in database called
Yeah,
Squirrel.
yeah. So I said we are not directly interacting, to design our table or to define our database into directly database. So we are always dealing with our SAP commerce system, where we have logic, where we have mechanism. It's called item.xml file, which always be under each extension. So so there we can directly just we need to understand the type system, and with the help of type system we can start declaring our data. So let's say if you can talk here, if you are defining a, let's say, customer data, then you have to define just customer item type into your item.xml. And then once you build your system, you can just build your once you do install to build your system and restart your server. And then once you update your system, so hybris engine implicitly will start creating those table into the database. So you don't need to do anything explicitly. So hybris server itself do that job.
Okay. What is the Squirrel then? The Squirrel database. What is that exactly then?
Yes, so we know that database server is needed, right? So either SQL server or MySQL server or any database or Oracle. So any database you needed to store the data. But what hybris commerce does is you don't need to explicitly write a query to create a database table and to insert the record. So that sort of explicitly work we are not doing. So hybris have that capability to deal with the just prefer your natural language to define your data in form of in terms of hybris type system. And hybris have that capability to interact with those database server implicitly. You don't need to define externally, right?
Okay,
Did you
but
get that?
I still don't understand what the squirrel database is and why it exists. I never heard of it before, and I thought it was hyper specific.
Oh, yeah, SQL database, these are the data. Have you heard about, have you heard about MySQL Server?
Yes, I've used MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, but I've never
Yeah,
heard of
yes,
Squirrel.
yeah. So MySQL and SQL. So these are the databases, and MongoDB and HANA database. So that are the just database name.
Okay, so Squirrel is just another database name.
Yeah, that are the actually server, right? To store that, have that capability to store the data.
Okay,
Is that clear now?
yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are understanding the feature about database. So here here is the some logic. So or when you deal with the database model, I will show you actually after gone through it. Just try to catch the definition of type system. Then I will show you where this data we are defining in order to define the tables. Okay, so okay. So here you can see multi-database support. We have that. So hybrid system have that multi-database support, right? So that hybrids don't care about that what database server you are using, either Oracle, SQL Server, or any HANA database or any. So hybrids have that flexibility to deal with the multi-database. And another property also we have at attribute level, like we are calling it as a dynamic handler. So with the help of dynamic handler, actually we are interpreting those values at runtime. We are not storing those. If you are making some attribute as a dynamic, then that means this attribute can't, we no need to store into the database, and that attribute won't store into the table, but we can handle that dynamically. So right, so let's say if we wanted to calculate the customer age based on his date of birth, right? So if I wanted to calculate the age based on customer date of birth, then we can just declare their age attribute as a dynamic attribute handler, and I can handle their age at runtime with the help of their date of birth. So we don't need to, I don't need to store his age into the specific table. And we have similar dynamic enum. So dynamic enum also, we are here with the help of dynamic enum, we can change that enum values at runtime. So these enum being stored into the database table. And hybrids also have that multi-tenant support, right? So with the help of multi-tenant capability, we can have that currency support and currency format and data format, right? So with the help of that multi-tenant. And here is the actually some low level definition about that query. So we are not dealing with to creating this or to writing this query explicitly, but how that when you create a particular entity, so what is the flow, so you can just understand. So in, let's say in Oracle, if you need to create a new table, then what syntax do you need to write? So here is the syntax to create a new table. It's called person, and here we can define that field name, that is a column name, and then we can define their column type, and then another column, and then type, right? So that's sort of just an example or syntax to create a table in when we are interacting with the direct, if we interact with directly with the database server, that means we need to create a query to insert the record. But when we in the SAP Commerce term, we don't need to write any sort of query like this. We have to just understand the type system and data model within the Commerce, and we can just utilize those capability to define our data. Okay, so here we have that how so question is how do you manage if data type are different from one DB to another DB, right? So as I said, Hybris is flexible, so Hybris don't care about that what in in background what database server you are using. So Hybris itself have that capability to deal with the table. So Hybris have that engine, so there is a actually item.xml file which will contain that logic and to define that schema structure and all in this item.xml file. And Hybris internally will create that tables for you, whatever the item type which you have been defined in this XML file, and that same table being replicated into the database with the help of item.xml file. And how that where you can find this item.xml and what is the syntax. So here is the syntax. So syntax will be like in your also, as I said, item.xml file will exist in your extension. So for example, if you're in extension, so at every extension you will find this like this format. Here is the extension name and then items.xml. So in this format, always your item.xml file will exist as every extension within the commerce. And here, to that is the actually XML file. We see that item.xml is nothing but it's a XML file, and that XML have that a schema definition. So how that schema validated? So with the help of XSD, file, that your schema will get validated. And to write a item.xml file, we need to have that items.xsd file too. So item.xsd, it's this file is just to validate your schema. You don't need to modify anything here. You need to just write your or define your data model, define your data within this item.xml file. And once you start build your system, this xsd file itself will validate against this table. And here are also some important notes about items.xml file. So the item type itself, is the type of particular item. You can define item. When I said you item, that means you can just understand item is nothing but it's an entity which you're gonna define with the help of hybrid type system. And next we have that right to define the item.xml file. There must be an SXD file which is some which has some rule, right? So this SXD file with the help of actually that schema being validated, and instance of item type is stored in item table, and but item type definition is stored into the composed type. So there is actually composed type predefined item type which is the reserve. So all the actually definition are stored in this table. And generic item is a default when you start modeling your data in SAP Commerce, then this item will, you can say, used to. So generic item is a general entity which always we need to extend to define any item type. And here we can learn about the concept of what is that object class, and how this object class playing as a super class for all the classes. So here we can extend one item type using keyword extend. So extend is a keyword. With the help of this keyword we can extend any features of the super class to the subclass. So we have that concept of inheritance. So inheritance, under inheritance concept, we are just extending the behavior of super classes. And we can control the access to an attribute using modifiers. So right, so we have that modifier at attribute label within the item type. So we can make the modify the behavior of those attributes, right? So for example, a modifier like there are some sort of modifier we can define at item level, either read modifier or write modifier or search modifier. So that sort of modifier are there, we are defining at attribute level. And we can control, right, so how to table are created for item type and default table for each item type in generic item. So we can also create a item type. So default will be the generic item, which one is the default one. So with the help of this one we can define our on table. And table is always called a deployment in Hybris. Okay, so generic item is a default deployment, but when we talk about that table, that means we are just deploying those table into the database with the help of deployment tag. And here some example about that, how your item type looks like in hybrid database model. So if you can see here, we have that item type, we have that different item types in SAP Commerce. So first one is item, which is the super type. It is the topmost super type for any child item. And another item type like extensible item and localizable item and generic item. So all the item actually extend this item type. And here how you can define your item type. For example, if you wanted to here is example to define your item type. So here is the syntax. So first you have to write item type as a tag and then define their code. So here example for user right. So if you are defining a user right item type for your user, then you have to declare or follow the format like this. You have to define the code and then you have to extend the generic item. And then there is a modifier, it's called auto create true. So there is a separate concept we will learn into the upcoming slides. So auto create and generate is two modifier. With the help of these two modifier, our item code is replicated into the into the database table. And here we can see here deployment tag is there. So with the help of this deployment we are defining or specifying the table name. And here that item type is mapped with the database table, and item type is associated also with the database table name. And to define this code, actually there are ranges which lies between these, like ranges from 0 to 32767. And some ranges are reserved and some ranges are open to define for our database codes. And here the same example also here, so you can go through that. So you will find that how you can define your code and what are the attribute and what are the modifiers, how we can declaring our modifiers at attribute level. And here about that, to more about how you can define your item type, right? So there are sort of more um, uh, explanation about your attribute when you deal with your type system definition. So you can also define the indexes. So if you deal with the indexes, right? So indexes actually help us to search those data into the database, but have that capability within SAP Commerce too. So we are directly dealing with the item.xml file where all the indexes we are defining for the table. And here dynamic attribute we can also declare for each attribute. So data will right. So if you declare your attribute as a dynamic attribute, then that means those attribute will not be saved into the database. So that can be handled dynamically. And the custom logic is to write right, so retain once and use all the time whenever that attribute is required. So here is the example. I gave you the example for dynamic attribute handler previously for age, and here also some explanation about example, like if you are trying to calculate the tax value for your taxation. So you can make that attribute as a dynamic, and you can calculate this tax value at runtime. So you don't need to save this attribute into the database, but you can just calculate it at runtime. Okay, so here is just explanation about the modifier. So when we can, we have only a setter method. When we have getter method. So here is the example for that modifier. So modifier will be like read. That means this allow you to just generate the getter method, and write is right equal to true. That means it will set some attribute to that class or to that entity. And here is also we have that search modifier, which with the help of this, once you make this flag as true, so that means your attribute will be searchable by this attribute name. And optional, we have also a modifier. With the help of this, you can make your attribute mandatory or optional. So these indicators will make your attribute or mandatory or optional. And here we have also a modifier. It's called initial. So if you are making this flag as true, that means your initial values will be defined at a time of system initialization. And you can also define a uniqueness with the help of this modifier for your attribute. If you declare your attribute as unique equal to true, that means your attribute values always should be unique. Yeah, Daniel, please go ahead.
When you said read and write to true as in this example, does that give you a getter and a setter?
Yeah, right.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, that's what it mean. Read means you are getting something, and write means you are writing something, right, to your particular item type. And here you can define your some custom property too for your particular attribute. So let's say your property is like hidden for UI. So if you are writing some custom property which makes that attribute for the UI as a hidden, then you can also set by default values as a true. So we have that custom property field too, which through we can define some custom property for your particular attribute. And here is also a mean of this read and write modifier. So I just said like read, if you make it read equal to true, that means you will get some values from the code. So that will more often invoke with the getter method. And if you are making your attribute as right equal to true, that means you're creating a setter method. And here is some example, like at what cases we will have only getter method, no setter method. So here like connection properties and creation time column, it's only created once, and later it will not be modified. So right, so here are, you can say, some scenarios why we need just getter method, not setter method. So if you face some connection, so you don't need to set your connections once that been set. So you have to just call a getter method. And same example, like that your item, once your item being created, then you don't need to override that. So you at that case you have always need to call just getter method to get the time creation value, right? And here, we will see here about that. What is that composite primary key? So this concept actually quite similar what we know into the database. This concept will be the same. What is that composite? What is that primary key? And what is that composite primary key? So these are the similar concept of database. So if you put like unique equal to true, that means for your whatever the for the column or attribute you are defining this modifier unique equal to true, that means it internally behaves as a composite key. And here, right, so to as I said, like if you are if you can try to understand in terms of data specific, so what is the syntax to create an index? So let's say you have to create an index for person table, then when you deal with the database way, so you can create a index like with the help of this index. But in hybrids we have that the step different syntax to create indexes. So you can define just with the help of indexes tag, you can just define your index name, and declare your qualifier. So that's how you can make your attribute, or you can make your table or item type to be indexed. So you don't need to directly interact with the database. You have to just do the logic, or do you need to write indexes into your item.xml file. And here is also an example how you can define the default value for your attribute. So to make those value as a default, so you can this is the syntax to define the attribute. So you have to just write attribute and auto make your attribute as auto create equal to true and qualifier equal to auto create. So this is the attribute name and this is the attribute type. So let's say this attribute is a type of boolean, and to define the to give the default value of this attribute, you can just declare your attribute as a default value, and you can just define this boolean value as true. And here some right, so some explanation about your item type. So item type, as I said, item type is nothing but it's an entity which you need to define as part of your data modeling. So to define the item type, these are the characteristics which you need to know. First, you need to define your code, item type code, and there is also characteristic to extend those existing item type. If you wanted to extend the some feature from your super type, then you can just use this keyword extend. And Jalo class, we have also a concept. So with the help of Jalo classes, actually, that system we are not interpreting these Jalo classes, because our with the help of Jalo classes, our system interpreting this data to the database. And here we have deployment tag. We see that with the help of this deployment tag, we can declare our item type separately. We can define a table name with the help of deployment tag, and we have that auto create modifier and generate modifier. So we can understand it here. So when you defining your item type and making this auto create flag equal to true, that means this item type will create that actually this item type making an entry into the table. And generate equal to true, so if generate equal to true or false, so this flag scope is at hybrid level. So with the help of this item type, it will create a getter and setter more methods model within the, so these are the nothing but it's a pojo, right? So pojo class is being generated which will contain a getter and setter method. So how that getter setter method will generate, so that getter setter method will generate with the help of this generate equal to, if you're making that generate equal to true or false, so based on that your particular model class is being generated. And auto create equal to true, that means when you initialize your system, this for this specific item type table will be created at a time of system update or system initialization. And here some more about attribute characteristics. So if you are to defining your attribute as a double type like total discount and their type is a double, so you can also mark it generate equal to true to generate the getter and setter values for this attribute. And here you can define a persistent type. Persistent type means this value or attribute gonna store into the database table. So how you can define the column, right? So here is the characteristics to declare the column. So if you wanted to make this double as a big decimal, then you can just type a column type and define their values like java.math.big decimal is you can declare this attribute as a type of this column. And you can define a modifier like read equal to true, write equal to true, and search equal to true, optional, unique, initial. So that sort of modifier you can define at attribute level. And if you wanted to define some default values for this type, we have that this tag to assign some default values for this attribute. And here the ways to define the item type in the highways, like to define a new item type without extending any. These are the actually way different ways we are applying. So based on the scenario, what kind of data we are going to create or going to model. So the ways to define your item type, like first is to define the new item type without extending any existing item type. That means you are creating a separate you are defining a new item type which don't need to extend any property of the existing item type, right? So that what is mean of first point. And next is to define, if you are defining a new item type by extending it with the existing item type, so you can also define your item type by extending some property of your some super type, right? So you can extend. And also you can define an existing item type again with the new attribute. So let's say you already have that existing item type, but if you want to define just new attribute, then you can just declare your item type and you can just define a new attribute for your corresponding item type. And here when we should define a deployment mandatory, so here is the some explanation about that, and scenarios are there when you can define a deployment tag. So I just said earlier at when we can use a deployment table. So once you declare your item type with the deployment tag, then you have to you just mention your table name to create the table for your item type. And if you are not declaring with the deployment table, then existing item type will hold these object or these item type. And here also we saw that collection is also one of the one of the modeling of your data in the type system. So you can make a collection of your atomic type values, right? So uh, we have that a way to actually make the collection of string or collection of integer. So that's that sort of modeling mechanism also there. And you can also have that collection capability to store object type collection in the item data XML. And here some definition about dynamic, how you can make your enum type as dynamic. So it is different from dynamic attribute. So once you make declare your enum type as dynamic, that means these dynamic values will define into the database. And why this enum type define into database? That means you can change their values at runtime from your table. And we can make enum type as dynamic by specifying the dynamic equal to true. So if you enable this dynamic equal to true flag for your enum item type, then those values will get stored into the database. And if an enum type is non-dynamic, that means those enum can be handled at class level. So there is some constant values will be there which you can use at class level. And if you add any non-dynamic enum type without values, so right, so there is no sense actually if you're declaring your enum type without any values. So your system will throw an error, so will not succeed. And here is also some more definition about your dynamic enum. So if right, so uh, here is like, so if you want to add a new values at runtime, then you can just make a dynamic equal to true for your enum type. And if you can change the flag type anytime but enforce a system update. So whenever you change the values of your dynamic type values, then you have to just make your system update to sync those enums with your database. And if dynamic equal to false, that means service layer generate a real Java enum classes, so that will be fixed at fixed values will be generated at 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 class level, not a table level. And if dynamic equal to true, it's generate a enum which can be used with the fixed values and can add at runtime. And now we have also relation type, one of the also modeling type. When you so when you need to define a relation between two entities or two items, then you have to use this relation type modeling. So as I said you about example, like if you are building a relation between product and category or customer to addresses, so that sort of relation you can create with the help of relation type. So here is the syntax how you can define your relation. So you have to just declare with the relation tag, and you can define your relation code, and you have to define their to just define source element and target element. And you have to define their cardinality, what kind of a relation you wanted to make, either one to. So in hybrids, we have hybrid support only two kind of relation. One is one to many and another one is many to many. So this attribute or this relation type will will capable to handle two type of relation. One is for one to many and another one is for many to many. And many to one, and also handled within the item type. So there is no need to define that one separately under relation. Here is also some advantages and disadvantages about collection and relation. So there is some sort of when at what cases if you use the collection, and what cases you can relation, and what are the pros and cons if you use the collection and if you use the relation. So here the advantage to use the collection is like retrieval process will be faster. If you want to retrieve or search that collection value, so it will be quite faster. You don't need to define any join. but there is no chance of data if in a relation, like there is no chance of data in transactional. So data flow will be bidirectional, but may join can you need to apply. And disadvantage of collection type is like if collection size is more than like huge, then that create a some truncation problem. So it's unidirectional and it's not searchable if record is too huge. And also because it's collection is just a comma separated pk, so how that hybrid store those values and handling. And also have some cons, disadvantage for relation, like slow retrieval when you deal with more than two tables. And here is just some recommendation about when you can use a collection and when you can use a relation. So when you are sure that our current and future requirement and we will not have many rows or many record, then we can go with the collection. And if you know that the size is bigger and data is huge, SAP recommend us to use a relation. So that's all about some advantages and disadvantages about our relation and collection. So we have to understand before doing any sort of modeling. And here also some definition about redeclare in item type. So let's say your item type is already defined, but somehow you need to, you know, define or change your existing attribute or existing property. So hybrids also provide us that capability to change the existing item type. So we have to just use that redeclare attribute, which help us to actually modify the existing attribute. So if we make the attribute as redeclare, then their property we can change. If we can declare that, we can define this redeclare for that attribute. And here also some concept about our data modeling. So here is some how that data modeling works internally. So Hybris creates a table, right? So whenever you do the system update or system init, so actually it loads your data item.xml file, and it's create a tables into the database. With so there is a item.xml file, and that item.xml file actually loaded when we do a init or system update. And also a hybrid generates DB schema using hybrid schema generator class is there within the library. So we are not dealing with this, but from for the information, so there is a libraries there. With the help of those libraries, is schema being generated from how that item.xml or data transformed into a schema. So with the help of this library, that transformation happen. And SQL file in temporary directory. So we see that when we install our hybrid system, and we see that there is a directory which is called temp directory. So temp directory actually hold that sort of SQL file which help us to build that schema. And there are some some temporary file are there to drop the DDL and DDL and DML to insert or update, and DDL to use the create a new statement. And here also different table types are there within the SAP Commerce. So we need to know that what are the table types within our commerce system. So we have that item type tables and localized, values table and generic audit table and property tables and system tables. So we have total 5 types of table. So for our what we are using as part of modeling, it always goes with the item type tables. And if we have some item type with the localized, then it will go with the localized value table. And this generic audit table and property table and system table will be used by our commerce system. So we are not interacting with these table, but for our information, we have that five type of tables. One is item type table and localized values table and generic audit table and property table and system tables. So thank you here. This is all about our data modeling session. So once we start the practical, we will understand more and we will learn about that, how that data model works, right? So now we can switch to our practical session. Okay. We can what we learn today as part of functional, we will see where these item.xml file are stored. So we will try to learn in our practical session. So Karen, Daniel, are you guys on?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so just update me where you are with your system, your installation, what are the steps we did. Just update me so that we can resume from there.
I have my hybrid system up and running.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay, so are you able to open HSE, Hybris Administration Console, cockpit?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so first I will show you that where what we learned. I will just explain you where that item.xml file exists, and to model our business data, we will see that how that data being defined into that item.xml file. So to do so, I just wanted to check what what is the actually uh, ID you guys have installed. Do you have that Eclipse?
No, I don't have it yet.
Okay.
I do. I'm starting it right now.
I'm getting it right now.
Okay, just open that Eclipse and okay, so let me just share my screen quickly so that you guys can see where that data model exists in our system. So let me see. All right. Um, please confirm me once you can see. Garen, Daniel, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So I'm in one of my editor. So uh, we learned that data modeling part. So I just wanted to show you that how that data model define in our system. So as I explained you, these whatever we see here, every like whatever the functionality contains, we have that extension. So we are calling within the commerce language, commerce term, we are calling it as an extension. So each extension have their own logic and have their item.xml file to model or to define your business related data. So if I can take an example, right, for B2 under B2B accelerator. So if I go any one of them extension, so extension have this on some feature to, if I wanted to define some data for this extension, then what I can do, I can just go here. So under resources, resources will contain that item.xml file somewhere. Bean is there. Let me find that there should be some extension. Item.xml file is there. Yeah, this one. This should also be there under B2B accelerator facade. Here it's not there, but it's okay. So what I'm trying to say is that each extension will contain this this uh, item.xml file. You can define your own data. So you can see if I search with if I can open any extension, it will contain uh, item.xml file where we can see the item modeling, data modeling of the system. So if I look at this item.xml file, so this extension contains more related to whatever this extension capability have. So this is the add-on. So we have that CMS action, Azure type group, and item type. We have reorder action. So reorder action extend this feature, a CMS, simple CMS action, which is the parent one. So this item type contains some property, and here is the Jalo classes which help to deal with the database. And we have that auto create and generate attribute. So with the help of this modifier or this action, the table being created. And in the similar fashion, we have that item type code, another item type which is called approval alter action, which also a similar sort of property. So here it's a very less that data definition, but I'm just trying to find another example so that I can show you all the logic we have as part of type system, right? So where we have defined that enum type or collection type data or relation type item type data. So we will see that. I will find another example so that I can show you. So all these are the extension we are using as part of our commerce functionality.
Okay, so I have Eclipse and I imported the Hybris as a project, and I have a bunch of projects, and it looks way different than what you're showing. You're looking at the file structure. I'll
So that your project structure will be different, right? So I have that project. So but I'm trying to show you that just concept, some basic concept about the data modeling. So you can just understand that how that data model. So we are not interacting with database table anymore. We are just playing around to design our data, to design our structure in at commerce level extension, which is called item.xml. So if you can see here, these are the actually sequence you have to remember. So first you need to define collection type, then enum type, then relation. So that sort of sequence structure is there which you need to follow. So all the collection type of data, for this example, if I'm just making a list of animals, then we have that collection of animals. And we have that similar like categories, list of category as a collection type. So here you can see a live example like how that data definition is. So all the data what you see here, that the same data will be there into our table. So we are not interacting with the table, but we are just playing around with our this item.xml file. So based on our business requirement, we are just defining or designing the data here. So this is all about collection data. So if I go another one, so you can see here about that enum type data. So we learned that enum type have that also a code and then auto create and generate. And here is the enum values, right? So new and featured. So that how we can define a enum into this item.xml. And similar, we have that map data. If you wanted to if you have some data which holds the value like key and value pair, then how we can define that data, here is the example. So if let's say if we have a data like discount classes map, then how this map will hold the data is like it their key as a string, and also their value is also a string. So that sort of map will be there. And in the similar way, we have also another data type which is called relations. And relations also, to define that relation data, we have to define their source and target. So source will be another item, that means another table, and target will also another table to build a relation between two tables. And to define those relation, either one to many or many to many, here is a cardinality keyword, which through we can declare our relation as one to many or many to many. So there are more example about relation. And in a similar way, we can define our entity. So how we can define our entity? Here is format. So we have to use this item type as a tag or syntax, and we can define our item type code. So for this example, I have just defined for media. To define a media item type, I declared just auto create generate. This is the format, and I have defined some attributes. So if I have to define attribute like media label, then if I'm making it as a localized, that means media label, you know, text will be localized with the different languages. Yeah, so these all about our data modeling. So maybe you can import your project into your Eclipse, and you can try to see the same structure in your system. Daniel, are you able to see the same structure item.xml file when you imported the project into your Eclipse?
No, um, but maybe I did it wrong. It's been a while since I used Eclipse. Let me share my screen real quick, if it's all right with you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So this is what I see.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so these all are the extensions. So why we see these extensions is like, so you have imported that, I think, Hybris folder, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you have imported that Hybris. So all the extensions as part of our Commerce suite. So all that extensions are imported here in your Eclipse. So you have installed that, while we are installing that our Commerce suite. So we have installed that B2B accelerator. So along with that B2B accelerator extensions, we have additional all the SAP Commerce extensions too. So you can open any one of them. So if we can take an example like for B2B project, we have that one application, it's called Power Tool. So if you try to search, is there any Power Tool related extension? Just try to search that.
I hit Control F and it didn't do anything. Right here, Power Tool Store.
Yeah, so here you can see Power Tool Store is there. Go to resources, not resources, or yeah, under resources. So you can see here item.xml file is there. So if you open any extension, you will find item.xml file. So which this is the design. But if you can click on source here in your Eclipse. Yeah. Yeah, so this one is the XML file. So currently it is commented out, but if you wanted to perform some logic here, you can, structure is there. You can just define your table. So here each example is like to my product. So if you wanted to define your data model product in this extension, then this is the format.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah, so just open your HAC.
My what?
HAC, how can you open that console? Can I see your server URL where we are opening that?
You mean you
HAC,
wanna?
when I telling you, yeah, you you can just play around that. Here Eclipse, you will try to understand at least the folder structure and all. But now we can move ahead with the cockpit. You see that hybrid administration console? Yeah, this one.
Okay.
Okay. So did you logged in already?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we can understand about this console. So I explained you earlier. So this is one of the cockpit which is more useful for developer purpose, not business purpose. So uh, once you land here in the home page, you can see a basic details about the system. So what utilization of memory it's showing, and thread overview, and database connection, and CPU loads, right? So all the information will show from the developer point of view. If you wanted to check system information, then this is the report which through we can determine what is the CPU peak and all. So this is the monitoring sort of. But if you can go to the platform tag, check one by one tab so that I can. Yeah, so here you can see a tenant. Can you click on tenant? Yeah, relogged in it. Karen, are you on the same page?
I'm going there.
Yes, so I'm just trying to explain this cockpit. So you just follow the same. Yeah, so if you can see here, Daniel, so it will show you the tenant. So we have majorly two tenant. One is master and another one is JUnit. So when you test or write any JUnit while you're coding or while you're development, you can just enable the JUnit tenant. So at this moment, we are not doing any kind of JUnit testing. So we are just running the normal application. So it is pointing to
Where
our
are you?
master tenant. Yeah, Karen, tell me.
What, it's on the platform tenants. Okay, got it. Thank you.
What is that?
Nothing.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so go to next tab, Daniel.
Monitoring or
No, no, under platform
configuration.
we have a lot. Yeah, click here. Yeah, so I told you earlier, all the configurational value what we see under commerce, we can all the configurational values are setting here. So why we see here, if you let's say you have configured something but you deployed your application, but somehow you need to change your configurational values and at runtime, then what you can do, you can just open this at HAC tool, that is a hybrid administration console cockpit, and you can come here through the platform under configuration, and there is a search box. If you know that what is your key, what is your configurational properties is, you can just type under search box, and you will that your system will return that search values. And to modify that any value, you can do anything. So here you can update your values for your corresponding property. So if you update anything and click on your automatically right icon will enable to save these values. So this is the one of the capability which through you can update your configurational values at runtime. Go to next one. Mm, Daniel. System, go to system now. Yeah, so system will this will provide you about your system information. So click on different tabs. So this is all the system tables information, right? So see here all the system properties which are being used for our SAP Commerce itself, we can see here Hybris bin directory, data directory, and temp directory. So that how our system configured all these. So that are the system information. So there is no use of it, but for developer point of view, these are the information we can find it out here through the system tab. Yeah. Yeah, so here you can also find your log. So if you wanted to, you let's say you were implementing something and you defined your logger and you wanted to, to debug your particular class or particular logic, then you can also filter out, make your class. You can search your particular class and define your logger, either log label, info label, or debug label. You can search that out with the help of this logger tab. Go to the next, Daniel. Next, extensions. Yeah, so this one is also okay. So what we did, we installed the B2B accelerator, right? So as part of B2B accelerator, whatever to enable those B2B applications, so these all are the extensions which are capable to handle our B2B B2B application. So these all are the tools actually which help to enable our uh, these are the add-ons. So nothing is there, so there is just a separate uh, a storefront, and all the application actually work. You can see here 166 entries are there in order to support the B2B market. So extension information you can find here through the extension. And we know that initialization is used to initialize our table. Don't click here anything, otherwise your system will go to the initialization mode. So so we are as part of installation or setup, we already initialize that through the recipe. So we don't need to here explicitly initialize our system, but if you don't, let's say, initialized from the recipe, then you can came here and you can initialize your system. So what initialize does, so initialize actually you know create your all the essential data to run your B2B application. So you can initialize your system whenever needed through the initialization tab. And in initialization, in the similar way, we have that update option. So we are used to with the update. So whenever, right? So if you change something at database level or item level, so you can just came to the update to generate your tables, then you can update your system. So if you can just scroll down, and also you will see, yeah, just scroll up a bit. I just wanted to explain you about, yeah. So here we are under master tab. So you need to know that these three check boxes, update, what is that update running system, what is create essential data, localized type, right? So here, when you checked with the update running system, what that means is it will uh, capable to generate a table. When you modified something, then if you checked with the update running system, that will create just a table. And if you checked with the create essential data, that means whatever the essential data required in order to generate your data, it will get automatically generated. And if you checked with localized type, so if you define your attribute as localized, right, to support multi-country attribute, I wanted to see the content like in English, French, Spanish, like that. So that corresponding your values will be localized if you check this. So that how update work. And if you define that scope for your extension, then you have that capability also to just import only that specific extension level checkboxes. So these are the capability through this. Go to next, please. So here next one is SQL script. So you can also you can generate your SQL script too. So there is no use of this in our SAP Commerce, but have that capability for developer mode. And through the license, we can see a license information here. So all the information we can see here. So by default, this is a development environment. So SAP automatically give us a temporary license. It is for 30 days. We can just extend this. There is a separate command which we are using. So whenever your local system expires, you can extend your license after 30 days, right? So you can see here the license information and its property. Yeah, so support, we also need to understand these steps. So let's say you are in some higher environment, either in staging or prod environment, then this capability sometime also help us to find the issues. So what this support tab holds, it holds the actually logs. So let's say you are in prod environment and somebody has reported, hey, this is the issues which is came urgently. How you can how these issues came from, then you can just open this cockpit and come to support. And initial step is to just go to for support tab. You need to find that the log for that particular date which user has reported, and you can just download those logs. So through the log you can just try to trace it that issues at when that issues arise from. So the under support logging information is there. And yeah, so PK analyzer is also one of the capability which help us to find the item type. So if you click on execute, you will find that what item type is defined for PK1. So you can see here PK1 is for type code item. So that is their item code is item, and PK number is 1. So that sort of low level information you can get it through the PK analyzer. This is also one of the capability for developer. This is also a class path loader. So this is just provide us a class path, nothing else. So there is not much information here. We can just find the class path. And yeah, that's it about that platform information. Now we can go to monitoring. So through the monitoring, we can find a different cache, right? So what cache holds, so we can to find the cache information, we can came under monitoring tool and we can find the cache. And here is the clustering, right? So when you are in clustering environment, so you will have that this clustering reporting tool will help us to find that what are the cluster. If you click on ping node, can you click on ping? So this also you know help us to actually, if you because we are just one system, but if you are in clustering environment with different nodes, then once you ping the system, it will help you to find that how that communication is about different cluster. So you can check it here with the help of this. Yeah, so this database analyzer tool also help you to find that what are the data sources and what are the drivers and database name and all. So this will help you to find that. So these are the actually very capable tools which is used for developer. So we can find all the information with the help of this tool. Yeah, go to the next. Yeah, so cron job is also because we have not created any cron job here. So cron job actually nothing but it we will see the upcoming session. We will see what is that cron job. So cron job is basically a scheduler to trigger the some jobs based on schedule information. So yeah, go to next. Yeah, this is also some JMX memory related information. So this is also used for developer purpose. If we are debugging something or threading purposes, we can find out those specific information. And yeah, this is also one of the useful tool, right? So whenever we are in, sometime what happen, uh, our system not responding. So if we are in higher environment, staging environment or prod environment, so sometime our application are hanging around due to the garbage or memory heap high. So we have this capability to to collect that garbage collector have that there. So you can see here the what are the garbage are used and what is the free space. So if you want to clear that out, you can just click on left right corner. So left bottom corner, you will be able to collect those garbage values. So you can see you have just cleared that and the space automatically get increased. Go to next, please. Yeah. So here are some thread dumps information. So what are the threads dump and what are the current threads? So we can have that record and reports about threading information to debug the system level information. Yeah, so here we can also performance level testing about our database. So we can check our system performance with the help of this tool with the different mode, either SQL or tables related information. We can check how that our table performing or data performing. Yeah, so this also telling us about the reports with the different application and their system information, what are the running system and what are the suspended one. So that are because here there is no as such case to suspend the system, so everything is up and running. So but reporting point of view, here this tab give us the status about running at suspended system through the help of monitoring tab. Yeah, so maintenance is also one of the tool which through we can maintain our system. So there are separate if we need to do something as part of maintenance, we can do as part of developer purpose. There is nothing much under maintenance. So you can just encrypt your keys, or if you wanted to deploy something, then you can use maintenance tab. You can see here all the deployment type code are there, what we see. So there are huge tables, so you will see lot of deployment code here. So main for us, we use this console tab. So console, console tab have I can say frequent use of this. So to perform the scripting language, either Bean Shell or Groovy, we can have this actually very capable tool to interpret some data or to fetch the some record at runtime. So this is actually a very capable tool which through we can find anything here. So if you can just click on execute, so you will find that this groovy script get executed at runtime. So in the similar way, if we wanted to pull some data from the database, so here is the tool. So that's why I was telling you we are not interacting directly to the database or table. So we are using this tool or this capability easily to fetch those table or record. Go to next one, please, under console. Yeah, go to console and select. Yeah. So here is the flexible search, right? So this is also a frequent useful tool. So we will see about this, what is that flexible search capability is. So it is more about SQL search. If you aware about that SQL search, SQL query language, so this is quite similar to that, but in terms of our SAP Commerce, so flexible search is more capable than SQL. So in upcoming session, we will learn about this flexible search, and we can apply here how that with the help of flexible search we can fetch the details from the database. So once we came to flexible search learning, then we will play around this tool. Yeah. So this is also a impex import, and impex export too. So in impex import, I explained you in earlier session, like impex is one of the actually tool which with the help of this tool actually we are importing all the business data, we are importing with the help of impex. So impex is nothing but it's the sort of CSV format data. So if we wanted to insert any data, then we have to follow this console impex import console to import data to the database. And in the similar way, we have that also a impex export capability. So with the help of there is a script to export the data. So if I wanted to, let's say, a requirement is like, if you are in production environment and if somebody asks you to, to take the data or product data or customer data, so you can just write it down export script here, and once you execute that script, it will all the customer data are get exported. So this capability is also important and useful for developer purpose. Yeah, so LDAP is also one of the capability when we are dealing with the single sign-on SSO functionality. So there is no implementation as such. So based on business requirement, we are enabling this feature. So that's all about this cockpit. This is also a hybrid administration console cockpit, which is used for developer purpose. So you can just in your off time and as part of homework, you can just play around that, uh, explore about this hybrid administration cockpit tool. And in upcoming session, we will learn more about cockpit, which are more advantage for the business purposes. There are a lot of cockpits, right? Smart edge, product cockpit, and back office. So we will explore about more. And today, as part of installation, as part of setup, we seen that, and you can just explore about this hybrid administration console cockpit. And upcoming session, we will learn more about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vishwa.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to visit our Vimeo page and follow for more upcoming videos.